large spiral bowls are what we are throwing today, and last week I actually posted a spiral deep bowl like this, and we got such a fabulous response. I thought for this Throwing Thursday I will show you how I make them. So this is 5 pounds of clay that we're working with, and it's a pretty nice size bowl. It is around 13 and a half inches wide once it has shrunk and been fired, and it's probably about 4.5 inches deep. And I'm throwing on a plaster bat here and getting this clay centered, and this ball of clay is actually a little stiffer than usual. So I'm going to actually throw this bowl, and then we're going to do a slip technique to create the spiral. But in between throwing the bowl and doing the slip technique, I'm going to stick the bowl in the kiln room, which has a lot of air circulation and heat in it, to stiffen that bowl up. And I'll probably do that for leave it in there for about an hour, because the slip has a lot of water in it, and I've had bowls slump on me because the water content in the slip and the extra weight that I put on the bowl made the bowl fall. So now I'm letting the bowl stiffen up in the kiln room for a little bit before I actually do the slip technique. So here we go. We're going to put a hole down the center and get this bowl going. I got a nice big thick piece of clay in there. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and smush it back in there because I'm a little worried about the bottom not being thick enough. So there we go. So I've been fighting with this, I don't know if I want to call it an injury, but this shoulder pain, and I'm having a hard time throwing with anything that's 5 pounds and above. So I've been throwing a lot of smaller weighted things right now and trying to rehab that shoulder, but the woes of getting older, I guess. So anyway, okay, so here is the base, and you saw me add that clay back into the base, and we're going to check and see how thick we are with our needle tool. So all right, we are still pretty thick. Yeah, we've got what, 3/4 inch there, and I probably want it to be about a little over 1/4 inch thick on the base. So we're going to work some of that thickness out, and I actually just had it back in. I'm still working on the judgment on these plaster bats that I'm using, so that's why I've been using the needle tool to check the depth. Yep, we still don't get some of the weight out of that bottom. Otherwise, it's going to crack drying because there's so much clay in the bottom that it's taking too long to dry, and so the rims crack, and then the rims dry too fast, and the bottom cracks because it's the last thing to dry, even though we worked really hard at trying to cover up the rims and get the bottoms drying ahead of the rims as much as we possibly can. So, okay, so I'm just trying to work on getting this bottom the thickness that I want, and I'm going to check again. Let's see where we're at. Okay, we're getting very, very close. I'm almost where I want to be. So I'm just going to thin it out ever so slightly more. And so I'm using this hand, it's locked into my leg here, and I'm using it just to keep my hand. This hand is keeping my working hand steady. My working hand right now is my left hand, and my left hand is on the inside and my right hand is on the outside. When I videotape, everything is actually backwards from what it actually is. So all right, so I'm feeling pretty good about that base, and now we're going to move into our first pull. So this bowl will not be trimmed on the bottom. So I get the base, the thickness that it's going to be at this point. So let's get our first pull going. Up we go. I tell you, that's the most fun part, is after you get it centered, pulling that clay up and just seeing it rise. And I see I've got a little air bubble here, so I'm going to pop it now with my needle tool. All right, so there's our first pull. And at the end of the video, I will show you the final product. And we are having folks pre-order these bowls because they were so popular that folks are actually ordering them before I even have them made. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to put a link to our website to this style bowl if you want to order them. They are $125 each. We do ship if you would like us to ship you one. And for now, this spiral technique I'm only doing on bowls and platters and adding the extra glazes on here that make it so spectacular. So we will put that link along with this video and what this bowl will look like when it's done. So if you're interested in purchasing one, you can do that. So Salvaterra Pottery is completely a production pottery studio. There are 3 of us that work here. I'm Sue, the owner, and then I have 2 assistants that help me and could not do near the amount of production that we do without them. And we are located in Weaverville, North Carolina, if you didn't know that. And the videos, we just like to share what we do with anybody who wants to watch, learn, listen, see how we make things that you purchase. That's why we share those. But our source of income comes completely from the sale of the pieces we make. So I'm full-time, and we are presently in our 25th year of business. And I have 1 assistant who's full-time and 1 assistant that's part-time that helps with everything that we do here in the studio. Alrighty, so let's talk about the shape. So I work on the outside, and what I'm doing is I'm taking this needle tool and I'm pressing it in and recapturing that clay, and then I work on the shape on the inside. And that's how I work with bowls, because when I take this bowl off the wheel, the shape that I threw it is the shape it's going to be. There's no extra trimming. There's no additions to this bowl. It is what it is when it comes off the wheel. So I've got to get it right, just right, when I'm throwing it. So let's take a look at the width. This is a little over 12 inches, and you can see that we're probably, oh boy, this one's going to be bigger than 13 and a half. So this is probably going to be, right now I'd say it's about at 16 inches, and it'll probably end up being about 14 inches in diameter. So this one's going a little wider than some of the other ones. And I'm going to get my rib. This is the rib I like to use when I'm doing bowls. Ugh, got some extra dry clay on it, because it has this nice curve, and the curve is different on both sides depending on how deep I want the curve to be. And it just helps push the clay nice and evenly so you get this beautiful transition in your bowl. And I really am liking using that particular rib to do that. And then I go back in with my fingers and refine it. So if you've been enjoying all the videos that we do, we post a video every Thursday of me throwing, and we used to do Friday's Firing live on Instagram every Friday where we unloaded the kiln, but we are switching that up to only 1 Friday a month where we're unloading a kiln live on Instagram, and we haven't decided what Friday that will be. So we've been putting on our story on Instagram like a day or a day before when we're going to be doing that live video, and you can join us. But then we also post it so you can find it even after we've posted it. But if you enjoy our videos, we'd appreciate you following us on Instagram or liking us on our Facebook page, or my favorite, honestly, my favorite social media has become YouTube. So I would appreciate you subscribing to our channel on YouTube, because the more people that subscribe and like and interact with us in these different social media accounts, the more we get seen. And that's our goal, is to get seen as much as possible and to show what we do and what we love. Oh, right. So we are getting close to the end shape on this bowl, and this is actually turning out quite lovely. I'm going to put my spiral in here that I always do, that I'm known for. There it goes. And so this bowl, like I said, I'm going to stick it in the kiln room, and I'm going to let it stiffen up, because I really think if I tried to put the slip in it right now, I think it would fall on me. So I will come back to you when we are ready to slip trail and put this beautiful slip spiral in this bowl. So we'll see you shortly. Okay, so our bowl has stiffened up in the kiln room, and now we're ready to put some slip on it. So let's see, I got this great big bucket of slip that has minimal lumps in it, I would say. All right, so we're gonna stick the slip on the bowl, and I just grab a whole bunch of it with my hand and smooth it out. Until I have slip fully covered where I want it on this bowl. And it's pretty thick, because if I'm going to use the slip for texture, it needs to be relatively thick. And I'm going to go clear up to the edge and try to get about an even amount, or well, an even coat all the way up. And that was probably, I would say, about a pound, if not more, of just slip. And so I like using a brown clay body base and a white slip, and that way the texture that I put on, it adds another dimension when I glaze it, because the glaze looks different on white clay body as compared to brown clay body. And so the two clay bodies I'm using are high water clay. The throwing clay body is brownstone, and the white clay body that is the slip is Little Loafers, and it is just a lot of water added to it and then mixed real well with a drill. So the wheel has to go really, really slow. This is a piece of plastic from a plastic container that you get soup from, and I just cut it in a curve. So that is what I'm using. If the slip is softer, I will use something that is real rubbery like this. But the last time I did, I started with the rubbery, and I had to switch to the stiffer plastic because the slip was stiffer. So the wheel goes really slow. I like to curve like this my little piece of plastic just ever so slightly, and I call it tapping, but it really is more like skimming over the top of it. And I laugh because I used to dance, and my dance instructor really liked me to do tap, and I was terrible at it because I have no rhythm. And so I joke about doing this technique and trying to keep my tapping even, and I'm pitiful at it. So it's taken me a lot of practice to do it. But I found that you don't have to be perfect at it, because the glaze covers up some of the sins of your tapping here and spiraling. Okay, And sometimes I like to start the wheel and do a rotation and then move my hand and start another next level up. It went too fast. Okay, we can pick that up on when I get back around. Okay, that's where I started it and it wasn't quite right. There we go. All right, and then I'll take some of the slip off and just scrape it off on my bucket and I'll start the next round. So, and I did spend quite a bit of time, I'll tell you, trying to perfect this technique, this tapping technique, and tried a bunch of different tools. And the rubber one, the little softer rubber one, actually works really well. And then, like I said, when the slip is a little stiffer, I like to use something a little stiffer. All right, so I'm gonna wipe off that slip and go around again. And it's a little sloppy looking right now, but when you get the glaze on it, the glaze, if you have the right glazes, it breaks ever so nicely over all this. And the other thing I would recommend that sometimes I forget to do is you want to sand down like the rough spots left over from the tapping, because like there's a rough edge here that would be really rough. And so after you biscuit, if you took a real fine like steel wool or just really fine sandpaper possibly, and just knock down those high edges, you'll have a nicer, smoother quality piece. And I really love how it creates this little edge at the top that's kind of bumpy. It's really pretty. It's like lace or something. So I like to do the whole edge all around. And then I see where I missed a spot here. I'm going to pick it up. Try to pick it up. Here you go. All right, and then I'll usually take my sponge rib tool and just get the edge just a little bit clean. And that is pretty much it at this step. So when I glaze this piece, I layer a lot of different glazes on it. Some of it I dip, some of it I spray, and that's how I've gotten the beautiful effects where they kind of melt one glaze into the other. And so you just have to experiment with your glazing. So I'm gonna lift this bowl up and you can see kind of the shape of it and the inside of it. And that's how I do these beautiful spiral bowls. So we are going to have a link for you to be able to buy these at $125 each. It's a very nice size bowl, and we would appreciate your support. Like I said, I'm only doing these colors on these spiral bowls and some spiral platters that will be coming later on. So this is Sue with Salvaterra Pottery. If you enjoyed our video, I hope you will subscribe, like, or follow us, and we will catch you again next Thursday with Throwing Thursday. Thanks, bye.